Hi everyone, welcome once again to the ThermoWorks Barbecue Patio. I'm Chef Martin, and today we're bringing you something special. We have with us today the Anthony Lujan. Now, Anthony is a ThermoWorks employee, and we want to showcase to you today some of the expertise that we have here in-house. He's one of our culinary specialists. If you call with a barbecue question, he's probably going to be the one who answers it. We're going to be cooking a brisket, and we're doing this not in the kind of standard whole brisket way, right?
No, we're actually going to separate it because, Martin, how many times have you been to been talked to and, hey, come over on Saturday, let's cook a brisket, and it's Friday evening, right? You're like, okay, let's get a brisket done, but I don't have 10, 12 hours to cook a brisket.
Oh, yeah,
So we're going to actually break this down into the two separate muzzles that it's already in.
Okay.
We're going to break it down, and then we're going to be able to try to get that ballpark cook around 6 to 7 hours.
So we're speed running our brisket today.
Pretty much, yeah. We're going to put it on the fast track.
All right, that sounds fantastic. First, obviously, we need to trim it, right? Is there anything special about the trim we do in this method?
Just know that the brisket comes in two separate muscles. We have the flat and the point, right?
Okay.
And then there's this huge fat seam called the decal.
Okay.
We want to make sure we remove all the decals, the secret, because you could cook that for 20 hours and it's never going to render. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're pretty much going to take, I'm going to ballpark around 2 pounds off this brisket, just in fat and silver skin, and then we'll get it trimmed up. So we're just going to start off, and I'm just going to kind of see how I put my hand underneath the brisket, trying to protect my hand and also creating this bump. That way I can run that knife and not cut a ton of meat. I can just kind of work it.
Okay.
And just take that thin layer of silver skin off right there.
Yeah, and you're just barely shaving it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
And then that way we can get that silver skin off. And that silver skin is key to kind of remove because it's a membrane, and membrane prevents any type of flavors being able to penetrate into the meat. All right, so we're gonna find that decal fat, and you just literally just kind of peel it back. If you're cutting into the white, that's where you want to stay because you don't want to get into the red.
Right.
You want to get into the meat because we can trim the fat up a little bit later.
So this is what butchers call seaming, right? We find the seam between the two things and we just follow that the whole way.
Exactly. So we'll just seam this out. Yeah. So there we go. We have the point separated and the flat. So as we can see that this has this huge roll right there, and there's one right here as well. So we're gonna want to kind of, I put my thumb on them when I flip them over, so I know where my high spot is when I flip over. So that one's a little high there, but this one's the biggest one. That flat looks pretty good to me. What do you think, Martin?
I think it looks great. It's a beautiful, like, we've got a really consistent thickness throughout. It's nice and clean. You've got nice straight edges. It looks fantastic.
Yeah. All right, and then this is the key point because we're going to be seasoning this like no other.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I do is I always take that a triangle cut right off the corner. Once again, we're going to save this, put it in some sausage. That is my starting key point, so I can slice all the way across the entire flat without having to look for my grain,
which may be buried in bark.
Now we got the point. Looks like just a whole bunch of fat, right?
It does.
That's what's beautiful about the point, is because it's so marbled and so rich. So the thing is with the point, it's pretty easy to trim the point down. If there's fat, take it off, and then we should be left with a nice looking piece of brisket here. So we trim it down,
and like Michelangelo, we will chip out everything that is not the brisket.
Exactly.
Now all this fat that we're cutting off, we can render this down into tallow too, right?
Yeah, and make some fries to go on the side with this.
Now I want to talk a little bit about what we see has happened here. So we've gone from one gigantic 18-pound monster down to 2 pieces that are really quite manageable. And from a thermal standpoint, you just can't beat that. This is going to take way less time just to get the heat penetration through it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so we should be able to get these temperature rolling. And what happens too is you don't have to wait as long for the stall.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to be cooking all the way through quickly. So we're going to want to get this one to the flat since we're cooking a choice today. We want about 195, and then we're going to start poking around for tenderness. Our target temperature is 195, and then that way we're going to start poking around with it, playing with trying to get a little jiggly, you know, that's what we're going for. And then on the point, we want to more go around that 205 to 210.
Okay, so 5, 10, 15 degrees hotter.
Exactly, yeah, because this has a lot more fat than the flat does.
Okay.
So you got to actually get that a little bit higher temperature to get more of the render out. And I got some rubs here. This rub right here is your normal standard SPG.
Oh, salt, pepper, garlic.
Okay. But it's barely very, very fine.
Okay.
And I like to start off with that. And then, so there's that one. And I also have the next one, which is kind of a medium grate, you know. But what I like about this one, the reason why I'm using this one is because this has sugars.
Okay.
And for coloring as well, too. So this is going to be my coloring aspect.
Okay.
And then what is brisket known for? That big, crunchy bark, right?
Peppery, right?
Yeah, exactly. So then I have my coarse rub here. So
Okay.
that's going to finish the top.
So we're gonna do this, and we're layering both for looks as well as for flavor.
Flavor as well. Yep, exactly. The finer stuff's gonna get in there and start tacking up and hold the coarser stuff on until they start, you know, rendering down and tacking up. So it kind of all works all together.
That's interesting. So I know that for like a standard, quote unquote, standard brisket cook, you usually shy away from sugar in the rubs at all.
Yeah.
Is it because we're cooking this faster that we're able to use
exactly?
that?
Yeah, we're not going to get as dark. You know, we're not going to get as dark. We're going to get more of that rich red and mahogany result if I do everything correctly.
Here's hoping.
It's not going to be that, you know, standard really black, dark looking brisket. And this layer, you can kind of see I'm kind of just going nice and light, just getting even coverage, patting it in.
A light frost kind of.
Yep, exactly. All right, and then I like to do both sides. Even though I know this is all going to render off and end up in the smoker, but still, it doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah. Well, it won't all render off. Some will stay there, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, it should stay there. So then we're going to come through for the next one. Once again, I like to start with those edges. Kind of use my hand and kind of pat it in there.
Right. Now, trim aside, is this how you would prepare your brisket for competition?
This is exactly minus one step. I would inject it.
Okay.
Just because in competition barbecue, it's a one bite challenge. You only get one shot, so you got to put as much punch into one flavor.
Right.
But
makes sense.
When you do competition style brisket, it's very delicious, but it's so rich you can only have a little bit, right?
You only can have a couple bites.
But so as your backyard and home cooking brisket, you want to be able to enjoy that through the entire meal. You know,
I want a plateful.
Yeah, I want a plateful, exactly. And now what we're coming in here is, this is the part where we make the meat disappear.
Okay, all right.
We don't want to see any of that meat. You know, we want to kind of go heavy, you know, pat it in, get it in there. Don't forget about your sides. So that one's done, and we're gonna flip it over. And this is the point. We're gonna want to let this come up to room temperature, you know, hour 45, you know. And what happens with it when coming up to room temperature? One, the salts are pulling the moisture, right?
Right.
We want that to happen. And also, brisket, it might look thin, but actually as it cooks and warms up, it actually puffs up.
Okay.
So you'll actually get it to it'll puff up and start to get a little bit thicker as well.
Okay.
Process.
And same level of seasoning on the point?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So Martin, one thing that working here at ThermoWorks, when I take some phone calls with our customers, the number one question is where do I set my smoker?
Okay.
You know, I am a big fan of trying to get a good quality cook without spending 2 days doing a cook, right?
Right, yeah.
There's the traditionalists.
225.
Not even that, like 185, you know, 22 hours, you know, that's burning $80, $90 worth of wood, you know. That is amazing. That's an art, you know. Take your time to do that if that's what you want to do. But I usually tell the customers 250 to 275 is gonna get the job done. Even on a full package, you're gonna push it more to me that you got 12, 13 hours. But there's no need to waste fuel and, you know, time when you can just get it done at that temperature. If you really like that, you know, super set bark, that really dark crunch bite, you know, yeah, go low and slow, but my time's valuable. Let's get these on the grill. I'm gonna actually coach you on how to put them on there and set them on the smoker.
Cool.
Right?
Point first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Flat first?
Yeah, flat first. That's fine.
Great.
Come on in here. Come on around. And just go ahead and lay that right in there. Okay. But we're not just laying it in there, Martin. What we're actually gonna do is shape it a little bit.
Okay.
You know, tighten it up. Make those muscle strands nice and tight together. Yeah, so we're gonna kind of make it tight and shape it to make it to look for your presentation again.
Okay.
There you go. That looks beautiful. Nice and shaped.
All right.
There's that, and then go ahead and pull your glove off, and then we'll get some probes in there.
So we've got the signals set up right here, attached to billows, and we've got the battery pack on that so that we don't have to run any extension cords.
Right, yeah, this battery pack's amazing.
It's fantastic.
24 hours.
24 hours of energy. It's fantastic. So we've got that set to 165, or if we don't, we can use the app to change that, right? 'Cause it's connected via Wi-Fi. And we'll let that go to 165 and then wrap, right?
Yep, that's about 2.5, 3 hours, right in the ballpark area.
All right. Well,
so
we'll see you then.
Yep.
All right, Anthony, where are we at?
We are actually running right about a little bit under where our target temperature is.
Okay.
But this is barbecue.
Right, yeah.
Variables, mixing.
We're improvising all the time, right?
So today we're running a little cooler, but I peeked while you guys were away, and I think we achieved the color I'm looking for. So you can cook to your color, or you can cook to that 165, because 165 is the point of where we're gonna start rendering, right?
Okay, yeah.
That fat's gonna start melting down. Right now, I feel like we haven't quite made it to the rendering process, but I feel like our color is where we need to be.
Okay.
So we're gonna wrap on color today versus that temperature.
So this is about bark in this case.
Yeah, this is about bark and making it look good. And
our bark is set so we can continue.
Yep.
Great.
So yeah, so now we got to achieve that color that we're targeting for. So what I'm gonna do with this to wrap it, quick and simple, we're gonna give it some apple juice spray throughout the entire thing, add a little bit of moisture.
Okay.
But notice I can touch it and that bark's not sliding off.
Yeah. So
that's
passing the scratch test.
Yep, exactly. So we're there. Then I'm gonna take about 4 pads of butter. We're just gonna put them in here.
Hey now.
Now we're just gonna give this a little bit of a wrap here.
And do you find that just a single layer is
I'm gonna double wrap this
Okay.
one, and you gotta remember, you wanna wrap this tight because we're gonna enter that braising stage, and any air leakage or anything like that's gonna work against us. So we wanna make sure
that makes sense.
Really
So,
tight.
When we do this, what we're shooting for is an airtight environment so that any water in there that turns to steam makes a 100% humidity environment. Then there's no room for evaporative cooling, and we get past that stall no problem.
Exactly, and that's what we're shooting for. So,
and we get to eat sooner.
Yeah, very true. So I got all that. We're good there.
All right, pop that back in here.
Yeah.
I'll hand you the point.
Yeah, we'll go ready for the point.
While I probe this again.
Yep, we'll probe that, and then we'll also bump up our temperatures as well.
Okay, what are we gonna bump it up to?
We're gonna bump it up to about 195 is what we're gonna go for, and then we're gonna start the probe tenderness test.
Okay.
195 the collagen should be broke down, but we also wanted that jelly.
Yeah.
You know. What the brisket's famous for.
Right. Collagen breakdown is a function of time and temperature, so you need both to happen.
Exactly.
And so it may take a while longer or not.
Yep. And this is barbecue. Meat tells us when it's done.
That's right.
So make sure getting that point nice and tight.
And I have to say, like, you know, with this method of separating the pieces, the two pieces, the point and the flat, are so close to the same temperature.
Yeah.
Because when we do a whole packer brisket, like the flat can be at 165, and because of the thickness of it, the point is only like 140 degrees.
Right.
And then you're torn. It's like, do I wrap? Do I not wrap?
Exactly.
Like, what happens? What am I looking for? And here, they're on exactly equal footing, which is just great.
Exactly, yeah. And I checked before I opened this up, I looked at the ThermoWorks app. And we're about 3 hours and 30 minutes in. And
that's great.
And yeah, so we're going to be able to have this for an early dinner.
Yeah.
And we didn't wake up early.
No, we didn't. Started when we got here to work.
Yeah,
just normal time.
Yeah, so it level loads the process completely by separating.
I love that. So we're going to bump up our target temperature, our alarms, our high temp alarms on the meat to 195 degrees.
Yep.
And we'll start checking it then. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep. And I'll do the flat 195, and then we'll do the point at like 205.
Okay.
And then
we can start probing it
and
about
then we'll start probing, and then we're looking for that jelly fill.
All right. All right, Anthony, we've reached our temperatures here.
Yeah.
Actually a little bit higher on the flat than we talked about, but it wasn't feeling quite ready when we got there, right?
Yeah, when you were in there checking on that tallow, I came out here and poked around a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I opened it up. That's why we're seeing the pit temp just a little lower, but I came in and poked around a little bit. So what I want you to do is open that up, and with that Thermapen, verify the temperature. Then also you're looking for like almost the consistency of room temperature butter when it's sliding in there.
Okay.
Or even like a cup of Jello. What are you feeling in there?
It's pretty soft.
Yeah.
And I'm getting temperatures in the 203, 204 range, so that's
perfect.
And the point, same temperature range, feels actually even softer.
All right, so we're doing good then.
Yeah, those are nice and tender. Take them off?
Yeah, here's some gloves. Let's pull them off and let's resting them. Let's talk a little bit how important it is to rest your brisket.
Absolutely.
So Martin, this is pretty simple. when somebody goes for a jog, they get hot, they overheat, what's the first thing they do? They look for moisture, right?
That's right.
Brisket's the same thing, so it's looking for moisture. So during the resting process, it's gonna pull moisture back right into that brisket flat. So we wanna make sure that we can give it enough time to be able to absorb those juices that are inside this tin foil and make it a little bit more juicy and more tender throughout this resting process. So we'll let them go for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Anthony, these look beautiful. Even the sun has come out. It's so excited about these brisket.
Everything came out perfect. We had a little bit of variance because of the weather, but that's just barbecue and that's just weather how it is.
You know, really though, that variance is a reason why people should use a thermometer, right? Why we should use something like the billows and the signals, because as you just set it and you walk away from it, you don't necessarily know what's happening. Having these tools on your side allows you to get repeatable results that you can count on every single time.
Exactly. So yeah, let's slice them up. Are you a flat or a point man?
I want some point today.
You want some point?
I want some
All
point
right, let's
today.
get you some point. Here we go. Yeah.
That's a really lovely smoke
I think we did good today, Martin.
I think we did.
All right, and I always like to just go right here in the middle. Oh, look at that bend.
Oh man, look at that.
We got some snap here. A little bit, yeah, a little
tight.
tight. But there you go. Watch out, it's a little hot.
Mmm. Oh, perfect.
I think we did well.
Oh, we did great.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. The flavor's amazing. That layering of rubs is great. The color's fantastic. It's nice and tender. It's super juicy, and I'm absolutely in love with it.
I looked at the signals on the ThermoWorks app. It took us 5 hours and 37 minutes.
For brisket like this, that's fantastic.
Yep.
This is better than the brisket that I get at most barbecue restaurants.
Thank you.
This is exactly why we believe in thermometers, what we were able to do with them. And we hope that you see here today that not only are we passionate about making great technology to help you cook better, but we have the expertise in-house. We have people here who care about how to use these thermometers, who know how to use these thermometers and are ready to help you. And we're all excited about them here. So thank you so much, Anthony, for taking time out of the day here at the office.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Yep.
Until next time, thank you for watching. From all of us at ThermoWorks, happy cooking.